Hello everybody, welcome back. This video is going to be a follow-up to my last homeschooling video, which was 7 steps to get you started in homeschooling if you were interested. This video is going to be kind of my 7 do's and don'ts if you have made the decision to homeschool and you are homeschooling. These are things that I feel like I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and I'm not perfect and our homeschool is not perfect, but I just feel like I've learned a lot in the last 3 years, and these are just things that I wish maybe someone would have told me. So if I can pass that information along to you guys, and if it can stop you from making the same mistakes I did, then awesome. All right, so let's just jump right in. Tip number 1 is don't compare your kids. I know that that seems pretty obvious, but it's just like anything else. They tell you not to compare your kids to each other as far as siblings go, and don't compare your kids to other people's kids. Every kid learns differently and at a different pace and different time. And I think it can be really challenging, especially when you're homeschooling. You're definitely going to be harder on yourself because you're going to wonder if everything that they take a little longer to learn or have a little bit of difficulty in is because of you and something you're doing wrong. But I would urge you to not compare your children. They will get there. Every kid needs to do things in their own sweet time, and just keep doing your best and allowing your kid to do their best and not pressuring them to be like their siblings or to be like the other kids in your homeschool group. That doesn't do anybody any good. So definitely don't compare your kids. Try to relax and let them learn at their pace. Tip number 2 is to relax and don't dwell on missed days of school. Just like if your kids were in public school, there's going to be days that they have to stay home sick. There's going to be days that the kid goes to school. Perhaps the teacher is having some issues that day, and so she decides to have an easy day and maybe they watch a movie or do something different in school that day than just their normal schoolwork. That's allowed too in homeschool. Don't dwell on missed lessons. You can always make them up. Also remember that it's not the end of the world if you don't complete every single lesson in every single book. That is okay, as long as you've got the main ideas from it. Number 3 is to have freebie days, or you can call them teacher in service days if you want to. I think these are really important, and what we like to do is to kind of surprise our kids. Like, we don't tell them that they're coming. I just might pick a random Friday and be like, we're not going to do school today. So the kids get up, they think we're doing schoolwork, and I say, nope, instead we're going to go here or there or go do something fun and surprise them. It helps keep things kind of mixed up for them and for you as well, so that you don't lose your mind. It can be a really nice surprise for your kids and a really nice break for you too when you feel like you're kind of at that point where you're like, then just have an in-service day. Number 4 is to do what works for you. Try to remember that things that work for your other homeschooling friends or other people in your homeschool groups or your friends whose kids are in public school, things that work for them and for their kids may not work for you or for your children, and that is okay. Sometimes it can take some time to find your groove and to figure out what works for you and what type of curriculum works for you and that kind of thing. But I know for me, I got really caught up the first year especially in feeling like I needed to be doing the same subjects, the same type of school as the other people in my homeschool group were doing. And turns out that wasn't what was best for my kids. And so now that we've made the transition to what I kind of always knew was going to work out better for my kids, this year has been completely different. So I would really urge you to go with your gut. And just because it may not be what everyone else around you is doing doesn't mean that it's not right for you and for your kids. Number 5 is seek help if needed. I put a lot of pressure on myself the first couple years of homeschooling that I couldn't get outside help for my kids because I was homeschooling them. Like, shouldn't they be able to learn everything they need to know here at home? And I had one child that was having a really hard time learning to read. And I really put it off because I felt like I was a failure. And finally, when I was willing to suck it up and say, okay, this kid has got to learn to read and what I'm doing isn't working, I finally was able to kind of bite the bullet, and I put her in tutoring for less than 2 months, and like that, she learned to read. Whatever that little piece was that was missing, she was able to get from a tutor, and that was it. We didn't have to go back. It was done, and everything was fine. But just because your kids are homeschooled doesn't mean that you can't get outside help, tutoring. And maybe that's not an issue for you, but I know for me it was. This kind of like stigma in my head that I shouldn't need to do that if I'm homeschooling. Number 6 is to remember that learning happens all day, every day. In our house, we try really hard to make sure that we're not just saying, okay, these however many hours that we're sitting at a desk, this is where we're learning. Our kids, your kids, everyone's kids are learning all day, every day, in everything that they do and places they go and people they interact with. And so when our kids ask us questions and, we'll If we don't know the answer, we will, okay, well, let's Google that when we get home. I mean, we talk things through. We really try to make everyday mundane things learning experiences for them. For us, that's all part of the homeschool experience, is that we really do feel like we are educating and learning and teaching all day, every day, which is part of the reason that we don't feel so bad if we have a missed day of school, because we know that learning is happening. And a lot of the things we want our kids to learn are things they're not going to learn in books anyways. Number 7, and this is just a rule for our family, but I feel like it's pretty good for every family who chooses to homeschool, is to evaluate every kid every year. It's okay if you homeschool some of your children and not all of them. If you have a child that is just not the kind of kid that can be homeschooled, or you don't feel like you can homeschool them, that's okay. Every year we evaluate each of our children and determine if homeschooling is the right fit for them. And if it is, we proceed. If it's not, then we'll start looking into other schooling options for them. But we are perfectly okay if we end up homeschooling some of our children and not homeschooling some of our children. We want to do what's best for each of them as individuals. Okay guys, so those were my kind of 7 tips for homeschooling. I hope you found those helpful. Again, I want these videos to be kind of educational for everybody, so if you're a homeschooler and you have other tips, please leave them in the comments below so that when people come to this video and they watch it, they might be able to look through the comments and find other tips besides just mine. Because I know we have quite a few homeschoolers here, and if y'all would share your tips below, that would be awesome. I would greatly appreciate it, and I know other viewers would appreciate it as well. So thank you ladies so much for watching. I hope you'll have a great week, and I will see you again soon. Bye.